Hello and a very warm welcome to this exciting discussion on opportunities in Southeast Asia's tech landscape, co-hosted by the UK-ASEAN Business Council and the Department for International Trade as part of London's Tech Week. Today we're delighted to have Natalie Black, Her Majesty's Trade Commissioner for Asia Pacific, to give the opening remarks. Eddie Tai from 500 Startups Vietnam to give the keynote, and a stellar panel to explore how ASEAN can drive its digital economy forward. And we are in the very capable hands of Mr. Chris Bush, the Regional Director, Asia Pacific Digital Trade Network at the Department for International Trade, who will moderate the discussion. I'm Alan Lai with the UK-ASEAN Business Council based in Brunei and have a couple of notes to highlight before we begin. Firstly, we would also love to hear your thoughts and comments and questions and invite you to post your comments in the question box at the bottom of your screen, and our moderator will present them to the panel. Your microphones and cameras have been switched off. Secondly, if you are on Twitter, do tag us at UK-ASEAN and DIT-ASEAN and use the hashtag UK-ASEAN. And thirdly, a very quick plug. The UK-ASEAN Business Council is the leading UK-based organisation promoting trade and investment between the UK and ASEAN's dynamic markets. Do visit our website, ukabc.org.uk, for more information and a list of our upcoming events. And now, to guide you through what will be a fascinating discussion, I'll hand over the session to our moderator. Chris, over to you in Singapore.
There you go, I was muted. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Alan. Thank you to UK-ASEAN Business Council for partnering with us on this event today. And good morning to everybody in the UK. Good afternoon to those in Southeast Asia. As Alan said, my name is Christopher Bush. I am the Regional Director of the Asia Pacific Digital Trade Network. For those who don't know, this is a new initiative from the UK government, which reflects our belief in the opportunity for greater partnership between the UK and Asia Pacific in all things digital tech related, including in ASEAN, in Southeast Asia, which is, of course, our focus for today. And on that note, I would like to introduce Natalie Black, Her Majesty's Trade Commissioner for Asia Pacific, who's going to kick things off with some opening remarks. Thank you, Natalie, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm joining you today from Kuala Lumpur, where I'm afraid it's pouring with rain, but I'm absolutely delighted to be joining you all. And to be honest, the rain is making me think of the UK. So there definitely is the partnership working here at the moment. So my name's Natalie Black. I'm the Trade Commissioner for Asia Pacific, which means I lead UK trade and investment across Northeast Asia, Australia and New Zealand, and perhaps most importantly and most excitingly, Southeast Asia. This talk in particular is going to focus on Southeast Asia and the ASEAN states. So for those who are new to the concept of ASEAN, it stands for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and covers 10 markets. That's Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines, Vietnam, Brunei, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. And I would just like to start with a big thank you to the UK-ASEAN Business Council. They're great partners of us in the region, and we really, really enjoy working with them, and they provide excellent business insights. So if you haven't come across them to date, I really encourage you to get involved. So we have a fantastic lineup today, as Alan and Chris have said, and I'm particularly pleased that Eddie Tai is joining us from 500 Startups. Very, very well known on the tech scene, and will provide some excellent insights to life on the ground here at the moment. And the panel that we'll have subsequently will also provide some excellent experience of what it's really like growing a company out here. Well, I'm really pleased as well that we have the UK Sunderland Software City, who again will be able to talk to us about a particularly exciting challenge we have, which I'll let Chris talk about more later. So the reason why we pulled this together this week is because it's London Tech Week, the preeminent tech event across Europe. And we're really keen to shine a particular spotlight on ASEAN or Southeast Asia, because we think it's a relatively untapped opportunity. Out here across Southeast Asia, there is a market of over 650 million people, and the GDP is currently worth $3 trillion. So I'm sure you will hear today that although we think of it as one region, of course it's incredibly diverse across the different markets here, and we'll want to bring some of that nuance out. But there are a couple of characteristics which I think are common across Southeast Asia. So firstly, it's relatively young. If you look at the Philippines, the average age is 24, for example. It's also extremely tech hungry. There's a huge amount of demand and interest in technology for solving everyday problems. And it's one of the fastest adopters I've ever seen anywhere in the world for new technology. So you see that demand turning into real action pretty quickly. And for that reason, tech was a real accelerator of the Southeast Asia economy pre-COVID-19. And of course, with everything that the world is going through at the moment, that spotlight is shining only more intensely on the opportunity for technology across Southeast Asia. And I personally see a huge amount of demand for e-commerce, artificial intelligence, medtech, cyber, and fintech. But of course, there are a whole range of other areas that get a lot of interest in this part of the world. So we already have a strong presence of UK companies across Southeast Asia. We have 216 tech companies, and amongst those, 6 of our unicorns already have operations out here. But we also have fantastic accelerators, including Entrepreneurs First and IoT, who we're going to be hearing from later today. And we have worked very closely with Babylon, TransferWise, Revolut, and Nash Tech, who we'll be hearing from, to help them grow their operations across the region. So there's some great case studies there to learn from. So the question is, what do we do next? How do we make the most of this opportunity at this particularly important time? And that's why the UK government has committed to launching a new 3-year pilot called the Digital Trade Network. So we are focusing on stepping up our ability to support the development of trade policy, attract investment into the UK, promote new UK companies in this part of the world, and help companies navigate some of the market access issues that I'm sure will be discussed today as part of the panel. So to begin with, we are taking a particular interest across Southeast Asia, and we're really excited to be working with Tech Nation. If you haven't come across them already, again, I really recommend that you look them up. And they are the preeminent UK scale-up organisation. Their incubator programmes have produced the vast majority of our unicorns to date. So to partner with them across Southeast Asia is a very exciting endeavour. But I'm also very pleased that we've developed this new UK-ASEAN Digital Business Challenge. So this was launched 3 weeks ago by our Secretary of State, and is an opportunity to focus on the challenges that really matter across ASEAN and leverage the very best of UK technology. And we'll be hearing a bit more of that later today. So I'd just like to close by saying, more than ever, tech partnerships are going to be crucial to not just future economic growth, but how all of our economies development, whether that's across Southeast Asia or back home in the UK. And we're really proud of all the work that's happened to date. And we've got some exciting case studies to share with you today. The challenge, of course, is what happens next. And I'm really excited to see where this discussion takes us. So thanks very much. Please enjoy it. And I'll hand back to you, Chris.
Cool. Thank you very much, Natalie. It's great opening remarks there to get us going. And next up, we have our keynote speaker, Eddie Tai, general partner of 500 Startups, who's based in Vietnam, and is going to share his perspectives on what ASEAN's digital economy has to offer. So over to you, Eddie.
There we go. Thank you for that introduction, Chris, and thanks, Natalie, for setting the bar high. I'll try my best. So I'm Eddie Tai. I am one of 2 lead partners for our Vietnam-focused fund of 500 Startups. For those who don't know, 500 Startups is a global venture capital firm headquartered in San Francisco. And we've invested in over 2,000 companies around the world in the last decade. But a large number of them, more than 300 at this point, have been invested right here in ASEAN. So what is a Silicon Valley firm doing investing in a place like this? Part of that answer is kind of what you see behind me. It is not my window. It is an image of a city. It is not Shanghai. It is obviously not London. It is Ho Chi Minh City. A lot of people see that and they are surprised that a place that is usually associated with, agricultural backwaters and war is actually developed into something really dynamic and exciting. And this is the kind of story that's played out a lot across the region. So my remarks here will be brief because the panel will go into more detail, but I've been tasked to cover basics of what is happening here in ASEAN growth, what's behind it, what are the kinds of digital opportunities that it presents, and some of the challenges folks may want to consider as they look to enter or expand in this region. So first on economic growth. So to help put the growth into context, so as I understand, the UK has grown about 2% per year over the last 3 decades, which is a nice, steady, advanced economy growth rate. During that same period of time, ASEAN's economy has grown 5% per year for the last 30 years. That growth has been resilient. So we know that right now, unfortunately, the global economy is seeing some challenges due to COVID-19. The IMF recently put out forecasts that suggested 4 out of 5 countries worldwide would see, unfortunately, a decline in economic output this year. In ASEAN, they projected 1 in every 2 countries would grow still, despite the challenges of COVID. And past COVID, which we know will pass eventually, there are great long-term prospects as well. For example, PricewaterhouseCoopers did forecasts around the world through 2050, the next 30 years, and suggested that ASEAN would continue to grow for about 5% per year. So that's a lot of growth. And so by 2050, if those growth projections prove to be accurate, and we'll see, ASEAN's economy would actually be 3 times larger. The collective economies would be 3 times larger than the UK's. That's and the UK's economy is large, so that's a lot of opportunity. What is behind it? Natalie already touched on some of the points. Well, I guess one kind of baseline is that it's obviously easier to grow when economies are starting at a lower base, and I think that's true for a lot of economies here in Southeast Asia, including Vietnam. But it's really more than that. It's not just a mathematical phenomenon. The details vary by country, of course, but on a high level, I think the #1 driver has been demographics. 650 million people. Their median age right now is 29. So in other words, I guess 10 times larger than the UK and a decade younger on average. China's median age was 29, 20 years ago, and we've seen what has happened with China since then. So I think having a large young population is a really powerful economic growth driver. It presents a lot of opportunities from a business perspective, but that doesn't guarantee it, of course. So what else is this growth based on? I would say education is the second factor. Despite most of the countries in Southeast Asia being lower income, there has been a heavy emphasis, some say culturally, certainly from a fiscal perspective and otherwise, on education from primary school onwards. And so you see most countries in ASEAN have literacy rates north of 90%. Their STEM performance on international math and science tests ranks towards the top. If you look at the top 10 countries performing, many of them are in Asia generally, but including Singapore and Vietnam, for example. And that continues on to higher education. ASEAN is pushing out about 300,000 students to study abroad around the world. Vietnam is the #1 source of study abroad students in Canada. It's a major #1 fastest growing source of study abroad students in Canada. So the #1 source of study abroad students in Korea, et cetera. So it's a real hunger to learn and then eventually to do something with that education. I'll touch on 2 other drivers for this growth, and then I'll dig into digital. I would be remiss to miss the role of government. And the type of role that government has played by country has been quite different, but on the whole, the governments have been pretty steady, have invested in education and basic infrastructure and so on. Again, obviously there's some exceptions. There's the country in ASEAN whose government has changed pretty much every 2 years, for example, but yes, generally overall, lots of stability. And then finally, manufacturing, which more explains the historical growth, but there's opportunity for it to drive future growth as well. For example, in Vietnam, I just blew the punchline, but Samsung is the #1 phone manufacturer in the world. It has about 20% smartphone market share, sells over 300 million phones per year. Those phones are produced in Vietnam. 300 million phones per year produced in Vietnam. So very remarkable kind of things that are happening here. And as you all dig in more after this webinar, I think you'll continue to find things that are surprising in terms of the opportunities that exist. So, okay, so that's on the high level. What does that mean for digital? Well, digital's gone hand in hand. Natalie has said digital has been a major part of the economic growth, and I think it's only going to play a larger part of the growth going forward. There are currently 360 million internet users across the region, according to a report by Google and Bain. 100 million of those users came on in the last 5 years, which means they're just for the first time learning not only Facebook and Google, but learning how to buy products and services online, learning how to do transactions and transfers online, learning how to do higher order consumer functions online, but they're just getting started. So there's a real opportunity for that to continue to advance. And we see that in the growth in the internet economy overall. This same report suggests that there's more than $100 billion of gross merchandise value in this region alone. That accounts so far only for about 4% of GDP. So there's a lot of room to grow. The report projects $200 billion of growth in the next 5 years alone in digital GMV. So, and companies, this is not just projected potential opportunities for business, but actually substantial businesses have done well here. There are already almost around 10, depending on how you count, 10 tech unicorns here. Names like Grab, Gojek, Lazada, Tokopedia, Traveloka. One of the companies called C ended up IPOing on NASDAQ, and last time I checked has a market cap of more than 70 billion US dollars. So people are they've already seen the opportunity, they're already building for it. So as a UK entrepreneur or UK company, what kind of opportunities then does this mean? Is all of this already taken up by the local players and you're just left to sit back and watch? I would say obviously not. I think Natalie has called out a number of sectors that show promise, and I believe there are others in addition that show that, in addition to those that have promise as well. There is less competition and more open space for now. Perhaps not in those first generation business models like horizontal e-commerce players or basic digital wallets and things like that, but there are a whole array of other opportunities that have not been touched or have not really been figured out yet. Again, different folks have different perspectives. Cybersecurity has already been mentioned, but there's technology around small and medium enterprises, around agri-tech and food, around training and reskilling, around higher order digital financial services, all kinds of things like that. Yeah, again, it's hard to really go into detail because the region is quite diverse, but I think broad brushstrokes, those are opportunities that you'll see in many of the markets in the region. Another broad brushstroke in terms of opportunity, I would say, is within countries. So you see here, Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, these are all developed cosmopolitan cities. And that's where a lot of the early growth has been. But I think there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of untapped markets in second tier cities, in rural areas. And that same Google report I mentioned before suggests that the growth beyond the major metros will be 2 times faster than the growth within the metros in terms of digital opportunities. So in short, there are both sectoral opportunities as well as geographic opportunities within the region that either locals or multinational companies can take advantage of. 2 other aspects of opportunities before I move touch on obstacles and tips. One is capital markets, surprisingly. So surprisingly because I'm sure, in the UK, you kind of take for granted that you have a very, very developed financial services sector, lots of different kinds of firms and so on, who are very very sophisticated in structures and terms and so on. ASEAN's capital markets are by and large smaller and underdeveloped in many ways by comparison, which represents an opportunity for some of you fintech folks. But actually, in other ways, the capital markets here are easier to access as an entrepreneur. Anecdotally, I can understand in developed markets like the UK, sometimes the financiers are a bit more risk averse. Here in ASEAN, the venture capitalists have a very high risk tolerance, in my opinion, in a variety of ways. And I think that allows folks to take a stab, start something fresh, get a little of that initial capital and see where it goes. In fact, we were just talking about this before the call. The company we're about to invest in next here in Vietnam is actually incorporated in the UK. The entrepreneurs based here in Ho Chi Minh City. And I just recalled that the investment I made right before this one just closed about 2 weeks ago. The founder, one of the two co-founders, is also from the UK. So some folks have already been able to tap into risk-tolerant investors like me. So that's second to last. The last piece I wanted to mention was the lower costs in not everywhere, but in many parts of Southeast Asia. We have a lot of engineering talent here. IBM has projected that Vietnam will be a top 3 country by number of engineers in a few years' time, behind China and India. Vietnam would be number 3. I'm not sure whether it'll be number 3 or number 5, but that's a lot of engineers. And in a place like Vietnam, they're going to be more affordable, all else equal, than certain other places like Tokyo or San Francisco. Starting salary for a software developer here can be as little as $300 to $500 US per month. So between that and cheap street food and lower rent, it's actually a pretty good place to bootstrap and start a company. Okay, so those I think are some of the opportunities, and the panel is going to go into more detail, I assume, but I wanted to touch on obstacles before we pass it over. The first obstacle, I think, is simply that a lot of companies overlook the region, but the fact that you all are on this call suggests to me that hopefully you are not overlooking this and that you will actually take a deeper dive and see the opportunity that's here. Second obstacle would be oversimplifying the region. Natalie referred to this. ASEAN is not one region, despite us calling it one. It's not one market. Even particular countries like Vietnam or Thailand are very heterogeneous markets. There's different consumer and business behavior in the main cities than there is outside of the main cities, for example. So I think there's a sensitivity to the variance that you'll see here. Let's see, last note here on obstacles I noted was business integrity issues can be challenging for folks from developed markets to figure out how to get around. This is not true universally. I think Singapore is perhaps the most transparent country in Asia, but certain other countries are still working on rooting out non-transparent behaviors in different aspects, whether it's individual behavior or business behavior or government behavior. And I would advise that one be aware of this and plan on how to kind of mitigate those risks, avoid those behaviors to still achieve success. So couple final tips. Get started early. I think the opportunities are big here and there's relatively open space, but it's not very much a secret. And if you don't move here quickly, move on these opportunities quickly, somebody else will. Second, get on the ground, or at least delegate substantially to local country managers. There's nothing that can replace seeing and hearing things with your own eyes and ears. This webinar is just a start. I think Natalie, when she first took on her role as Trade Commissioner for APAC, did a whirlwind tour of 20-some countries in 6 months, got on the ground in each country to understand what was happening. So You may not need to log as many miles, but do spend time here when travel opportunity presents itself again. Finally, don't assume that what works in one market that you've entered here, or even your home market, is going to work in other markets. This is a theme that's going to come up continuously throughout today, it sounds like. Yeah, the variance is so large that you kind of just have to have an experimental mindset, adaptive mindset to really mold your approach and your team to what will work in the particular market you're addressing. So that's all I wanted to touch on. Didn't want to take up too much airtime, and I'm really excited to hear what the panelists have to say. Thanks for inviting me to share these thoughts.
Cool, that's great. Thank you so much, Eddie. Really appreciate that. Really interesting and insightful. Lots of exciting stats and evidence on the growth opportunity in ASEAN. Particularly good to hear as well about the existing strong links with the UK and the couple of examples that you mentioned. If anybody does have any questions for Eddie, he is going to be joining the rest of the panel for our Q&A session shortly. But before we do that, we've got a great panel with us here today who's going to delve in a bit deeper into some of the opportunities in ASEAN for tech businesses, the challenges and the tips, some of which Eddie's already touched on a bit more, but we'll go into that a bit more. One thing I want to remind you of as well, please do use the chat function to ask questions as we go. We'll come to these later on at the end of the panel session. No need to save them all up. There's a button somewhere that says Q&A. It's either on the top of your screen or your bottom of the screen, depending on what device you're using. But yeah, let's get started. So welcome panel members. It's great to have you all with us today. So to get us started, I think I'll just go one by one to introduce you and ask you to say a few words about yourself to our audience. So let's start with Amrit, Chief International Officer of TechSource. Over to you. Can you introduce yourself briefly, please?
Yes, thank you, Chris. Hi, my name is Amrit, or AIM. I run TechSource, which is one of Southeast Asia's leading technology, media, and conference company. We get about 5 million readers annually at a conference of 20,000 people. And my profile there is Thailand's first co-working space. We were at 5 locations until COVID hit. Turned into a co-working refugee, worked out at home, reinvent myself as an impact investor for Impact Collective. Right now, helping over 30 Thai tech companies survive, meaning payroll and seeing that whenever the industries pick back up, that they will actually thrive again. Been an amazing, phenomenal partner with all the work that Natalie, Chris, and the folks at the embassy in the UK, and then all the partners and then companies from the UK that want to expand to the market, and have been hosting many events and webinars. And it's great to be here once again.
Cool. Great. Thank you very much. Great to have you with us, Amrit. And next up, we have Tanya Suarez from IoT Tribe. Over to you, Tanya. Oh, I think you're on mute. Can we unmute Tanya, please?
There we go. Sorry about that. So thank you very much for inviting me on the panel, Chris and team. And good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tanya Suarez. I am the founder of IoT Tribe. We run acceleration programs as the core of building technology ecosystems. We're headquartered in the UK in London, but we also have offices in Europe and really importantly in Singapore, where we've just launched 2 programs. One is a deep tech program where we're supporting deep tech companies to really scale up their businesses through corporate partnerships. And the other is our London Tech Calling program, which supports Singaporean scale-ups to come into the UK and expand their businesses from there.
Great, thank you very much, Tanya. And last but not least, we have Loan Pham, who is the CTO of Nash Tech. Loan, great to have us with you. Can you introduce yourself briefly, please?
Thank Chris. Thank everyone give me a chance to join with you in this webinar. So I'm currently CTO of Nash Tech. responsible for the technical governance for our company. So Nash Tech is a global company, international company, and our headquarters of our company is in London. However, we have the main development center is located in Vietnam, with more than 2,000 people here in Vietnam. So it's a very pleasure for me to meet all of you. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much, Loan. So that's the easy part over, introducing yourselves. So moving on to the questions. So I think, Amrit, coming to you first. We've heard from Eddie a bit of a general introduction about ASEAN. Could you tell us a bit more about what you see the opportunities are in ASEAN for tech business? Why should tech companies be thinking about coming to the region?
I think one of the most exciting space that we've seen is that COVID has really triggered the wave of digital transformation for both governments and corporates faster than all the talks, webinars, seminars that we've been running for the past 10 years. And just because business as usual is disrupted, people are now fearful of not just losing their jobs, but companies shutting down. We've seen travel industry go down from 30 million travelers in Thailand to 0. And I have startups that went from having 100 staff to literally going into hibernation with just the founders left in the travel space. And all that happening in 3 months is giving a lot of really compelling events and reason to invest and be part of the digital economy. Well, you can see with all the Thai conglomerates, our leading banks are actually hiring more aggressively, paying more salaries than any of the startups could afford. But what's beautiful about it is, while there's a strong view of, oh, we can do this, we can build this technology, there's so many problems that still are unsolved. In Southeast Asia and Asia, more and more people, I think right now it's around 50%, but 60% of all population will move into urban areas. And urban areas in Asia will see the higher percentage of natural disasters than anywhere in the world. Typhoons and earthquakes and fires and smog and whatnot. So as more people are moving to cities, looking for jobs that no longer exist, taking education that no longer readies them for their future careers, and then they live in cities that are a complete mess with, Bangkok's infamous traffic jams and whatnot. So I think it's this whole kind of culmination of all these factors that are creating so many problems that nobody, even the best companies in the country, cannot adapt. And that's why I think for UK businesses and business across the world, the opportunity to bring innovation and technology and say, we've solved this in the UK, and the brand is strong. Can you try and work with us, and let's bring this to Thailand, to Vietnam. And I think that shift is happening very fast, but this is why we're having this call, is to spotlight and show that, talk to any of all of us in this call, and we are drowning in corporations talking to us, looking for startups that they can work with or invest in.
Cool, thank you, Amrit. And it's, one of the things you touch on there is the great power of tech as well to respond to some of the challenges we face. And there's a report the other day, actually, I saw, and it had the headline of 5 years of digital transformation in Southeast Asia in 1 year, which is just remarkable about how quickly this transformation is happening. It was happening fast already, and now it's just gone to another level. So thank you. Loan, I thought maybe I could come to you next, particularly because Nash Tech is a UK headquartered business. I wonder if you could tell us your perspective on why ASEAN is not just a great place for tech, as Amrit was setting out, but for UK tech businesses in particular.
Sorry, Eddie mentions a lot great opportunities and also the good aspect in Asia and especially in Vietnam. So I would like to ask some more. Hello, have you hear from me? Can you hear from me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
I would like to add some more information. Along with the one Eddie mentions a lot of good thing about Asia, especially in Vietnam. So today, Asia is one of the fastest growing and most dynamic region of the world, especially for the digital economy growth. For example, in Vietnam, we also expect that we can reach about $43 billion for digital economies. We would like to achieve in 2025. And after that, the government in the past mentions a lot about leveraging the new technology, adapt to the industry 4.0. But in the region 2 years, they put high commitment on that, and they accelerate in investing in the new technology like IoT, robotics, data science, data analytics, AIs, or automation, in order to lead aggressively the smart city initiative, and also enable the digital government, especially build the electronic IDs or administration procedure. Beside that, government also put some very supportive policies and regulation. For example, startup in the high tech, they can get the corporate tax exemption during the first 4 years, and also receive the 50% reduction for the next 9 years. Beside that, the connectivity of the mobile network coverage is now reached to 95% in Vietnam. And when I see and study in the other country in Asia, this coverage is even higher. And the number of consumers have the internet penetration in Vietnam is around 65%, and it's much higher in the other country. For example, in Thailand, it's reached to 75%, and in Singapore, it's nearly 100%. So it is very potential for the tech company or the tech business come and work in Asia country. Beside that, beside the government, the other business, they also push up and they invest a lot on technology. So they focus a lot on digital transformation. In the past, they mentioned a lot about that. But in the region 3 years, we can see that it's a small demand from those business come to us and discuss with us how they can transform the business in the digital way. So the demanding on those space is keep increasing, and it's become much higher now. The other supporting factor is about the resource. So Eddie also mentions that in Asia country, they focus a lot in education. And I also observed that in Asian country, the students, they focus a lot on the STEAM subject, so science and technology. Especially in Vietnam, this portion can reach to 80%. Student study in technology or STEAM subject. It lead to the very large resource pool for technology or technical business. Besides that, after graduation, so the employer or the employees or the people who work in tech, they are very hungry in like learning the new technology, and they are not afraid in facing the challenge when applying the new technology. And I have changed to work with the partner in Thailand and also in Singapore. I can observe that we share the same like core value or the same culture in adopting the new technology. So this is all of those things. I think this is the rich aspect for the tech business come and work with the Asian countries. Yeah, thanks.
Cool, thank you, Lauren. Lots of interesting things there, and lots of reasons to expand into Southeast Asia and across a whole range of sectors as well. I think this digital transformation point is really valid, and it's also great to hear about the skills on the ground that exist for businesses that are looking to extend into the market. So Tanya, coming to you now, in your experience with the businesses that you work with, which do you think are the UK tech strengths that are of most interest to ASEAN businesses? What do we bring from the UK into the region?
Well, that's of course the $60 million or pound question, isn't it? It's what makes us different when we go out into global markets. And I would say there's definitely something around reputation and everything that is built around the UK tech sector and makes it what it is. So if we talk about the tech strength, for example, just look at the amount of tech vacancies there are in the UK, 90,000 vacancies a week. You know, that just, if there are 90,000 vacancies, just imagine the amount of people that are being employed and the rate of growth that the tech industry generally is enjoying, even through COVID. I'm talking about recent figures, right? Second, it is validation that comes through things like the WIPO, which measures global innovation, but in very concrete terms. You know, they're looking at knowledge, they're talking about, you know, the ability to generate patents and protect IP. And the UK is number 4 in that Global Innovation Index. And again, this goes towards building that reputation as a tech hotspot, global tech hotspot. And third, of course, it's the work of the R&D institutions in terms of developing global tech talent. So many people in many of the students and PhD students in universities in the UK, you know, come from all over the world, and they take back to their home countries this knowledge and the networks that they're building through coming to the UK and generating and building their careers and their knowledge base. So that was just one of the things, the tech strength that comes generally from the reputation that the UK has built over the years. I would say that from our experience, it's also the ability to access non-ASEAN markets. So when our companies go over to an acceleration program, or they join us in anything that we do, whether it's events or you know, they become part of our ecosystem more broadly, and they engage with local companies, for example, in Singapore, the Singaporean companies are very interested in the links that they bring and the cultural insights and the business insights that they bring that are non-ASEAN specific. So, you know, normally companies in the UK will have a pretty good network that extends beyond the UK, you know, whether it's across to the US or more closely into Europe. And all of that can really help a Singaporean based or headquartered company understand some of the other global markets. You know, the UK again is number 1 for unicorns in Europe. That is because of their ability not to just grow the home market, but also expand into other global regions. And the third aspect, which is probably more, I don't know if the word is personal, but intrinsic to the companies, is that the UK tech companies are incredibly practical. So within a very short period of time, it is very easy to understand what the value proposition, what the way to do business is, where the added value comes, and of course the business opportunity. So I would say it's those three things. First of all, the general tech strength of the UK. Secondly, access to other non-Asian markets. And thirdly, the practical nature of doing business in the UK.
Cool. That's great. Thank you very much, Tanya. So I think we've got a good idea of the opportunities now and where there is opportunity for partnering between UK tech companies and ASEAN. But again, as Eddie alluded to, there are challenges, of course. So I just think the same question to each of you is, I'd be interested in what do you think are the biggest challenges for UK companies specifically who are looking to work within ASEAN? So maybe Lowen, could we come to you first, please? What do you think are the biggest challenges?
Yeah. So perhaps I mentioned a little bit the challenge related to technology. So the maturity of applying the new technologies is very different in different countries in Asia. So when the UK business come and work with the Asia country, you must understand well the characteristic of each market. So that, for example, in Singapore, Singapore have a highest maturity in applying the new technology, in all aspects, while the other country is still like premature or still emerging. For example, in Vietnam, we also mentioned a lot about like applying a new technology, but like it just happened during recent 2 years. But it's still like under discussion and still find a way to set the right roadmap for that. The second challenge is about the English skill. So there are some countries like Singapore or Philippines, you use the English skill as the first official language, but the other country is not like that. For example, Singapore, you have a good English skill. You can find the result with good English skill, but the result pool for tech is not too many. While Vietnam, for example, we have a large like result pool in tech, but not most of them good in the English. So it is also we need to like find a way to work with different country and have different approach when working with Asia country. And the other is about the policies and regulation. So each country have different policy and regulation. And for example, when here we work with UK business, sometimes we have the regulation and policy here. We try to share with our partner in UK. But in UK, when we work with them in one project, we also need to comply with the regulation there. For example, recently we mentioned about GDPR. So we need to like overcome this challenge. We are training or we are sharing a lot of information about those aspects. Yeah. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Owen. Yeah, some really interesting challenges there, but I think surmountable ones. So at least the challenges that we can meet. Amrit, over to you. What do you think the biggest challenges are?
Well, I think like every new market, it's really seek to understand before just going out there, guns blazing, pitching your way to, in hopes of landing the big contract. And then the reception of UK companies and businesses is going to be very high. So many people in Thailand also studied in the UK, are keen to work with UK businesses. But here's a difference in ASEAN market versus the Western market. So in the West, people would spend money to save time. You're seeing people buy SaaS software and whatnot all the time. That said, in ASEAN, people are willing to spend time to save money. So in the 9th of September, 9/9, which is a big day for e-commerce sales, every tech founder I talked to had to stay up till midnight to check out the shopping cart for their wives, and some of my products included, but mostly the wives. And to the point where it crashed the internet banking. I wouldn't say it crashed the internet, it definitely crashed the banking apps processing on the payments because so many people were shopping simultaneously. And it just goes to show that the consumer, the way people think, behave is completely radically different from the UK. So in order to come to the market, I think Eddie said it right, is you're going to have to find some really great Sherpas, trusted partners, or even build a really strong team around somebody who has navigated the market successfully and can also open the doors to the right policymakers and corporates and potential customers, and build a really strong team. Wherever you choose in Southeast Asia, I joke with all my Thai friends all the time, like the next country I want to move to, Vietnam for sure. It's super exciting, food's great, very important part of Asia. But it's really about you picking your poison. Like every country is amazing in its own right. I just got to figure out which one is right for you, and that means you have an edge in certain areas. Somebody, you have great support from, Chris and Natalie and the team. You have friends or colleagues or alumni from your university that you're going to hire, and that person is going to anchor the shop there. And a lot of times it's going to be around people, because those people are going to help you drive the business in Southeast Asia. So pick your poison, and just go with whichever market, because eventually you're going to have to expand to all of them. And it's going to be a headache. It's going to be a really fun puzzle to solve. But if you solve it, like Amazon is dragging its feet, expanding into Southeast Asia, because it's battling, giants are battling in India, things are going on in all other markets. But this is what people consider the next China. And it's a really hard problem to solve. So if you solve it well, like a Lazada, and then an Alibaba will buy you out, or many other cases. So because of the complexity, and if you are able to win it, then you become a really exciting business for future investment or acquisition.
Cool, thank you. And as you say, that's kind of, one of the reasons why the Digital Trade Network is here, to help people, exactly as you say, make those connections on the ground, and our partners, UK-ABC. So there's lots of support, I think, for those who are interested in doing it. I definitely have a challenge because I didn't know about 9.9 and all the sales. So I need to learn more about that as somebody who's new to the region, because I feel I've missed out now. There's always next year, I guess.
No, there's 10-10, 11-11, 12-12.
Oh, okay.
So.
I see the pattern. Oh. Excellent, thank you. And Tanya, how about you? What do you think the biggest challenges are?
Well, before we talk about the challenges, which there are many, let me also talk about the opportunities. So first of all, I think, Chris, as you've just mentioned, there are a number of really great organizations, including the DIT, but also, in Singapore, for example, there's the Global Innovation Alliance that can really help anyone wanting to enter these markets. And there's so much resource available that the first point, of course, should definitely be, try and find out who's who, and then just go and ask for advice, ask for connections, because they're, that can really shorten the time to market and really give you a full picture of what the market is like. So now let's move on to some of the challenges. If you look at some of the challenges that have been faced by our cohorts, I would say that when you have a technology product, you can't assume that you can just take that product and plug it into a company or into a market, another global market. The companies that we've had that, and if I can just put some context into that, we deal mostly with companies that will have as their client an industry or corporation. So this is a B2B market. But if you have an AI product, whether it is something to do with a manufacturing process or an AI that can help optimize the use of, for example, air conditioning, those products need to be trained, and they need to be trained locally on the basis of data sets. So making sure that anything to do with AI is trained on local data sets is absolutely critical. You can't just, take something that's been trained elsewhere and plug it in. It just doesn't work for any number of reasons that I won't go into. That's a whole nother session. I would also say that building out from that, legacy technologies are different. So anything where you have to integrate into existing processes, you need to understand what those processes are. And normally there will be a technological element. So plugging into those, you really do need to spend time understanding what already exists and how the product or solution that you're offering can come in and layer and interact with whatever's there, because nobody's going to stop their day-to-day and their business as usual so that you can come in and kind of like do something and get your service off the ground and launch. So that would be kind of the technological piece. I would also say that, and this isn't unique to Singapore or to any of the ASEAN markets, you have to understand the route from pilot to procurement, and that is slightly different. A lot of the organizations or the companies that you might be dealing with might have, government ownership or participation, and that means that, the procurement rules and regulations might be different. And again, understanding, getting pilots is not easy, but it's not super difficult, particularly, if you go hand in hand with, a partner. I think Amrit was also saying this, Lowen, and Eddie was definitely alluding to this. But getting from that initial, yes, we understand how this can work, let's get this into a proper contract, don't underestimate the amount of time that takes and how much you really have to understand that process, who the decision makers are, because the decision makers actually may not necessarily be local, and that's absolutely critical. And I think that those are the two things that I would say.
Cool, thank you very much. And one of the challenges we have here is we're such a knowledgeable panel, we are rapidly running out of time as well. So I had a final question about your top tips, but I don't want to leave the audience shortchanged. So rather than going into this in any kind of depth, just if I can ask each of you, like one top tip, just one, maybe, I don't know, 5 words or less, a real challenge for you now. What would your one top tip be for any of the audience members who are thinking of expanding into ASEAN? So Lowen, I saw your microphone is off, so I'm afraid you've drawn the short straw to go first.
So just some keyword, rest.
Sorry,
I think no, I think like understand the culture of Asia country is the top key aspect for UK business when come and work with Asia country. So cool. And the second one is about skill of technical talent. So you can find the good technical people in Asia country, but like communications or English skill is not like appropriate good they are. So sometimes they are not good in showing how good they are. So when working with them, we need a lot of sympathy, patience, and kindness, especially in Vietnam. The third one is business in Vietnam, especially. They said they focus a lot in digital transformation, but I share they are not mature enough. So when working with the here with the business in Vietnam, we need the high commitment and also the a good well-defined journeys of the business leader when come and work with the Vietnamese companies. Because transformation is not only about technology, but also about people, about the way they currently working, and also about myself. Yeah. So I think
that's great. Thank you very much. Some great tips there. Thank you. Amrit, what would your top tip be?
Yeah, I think, have great friends. The learning curve to understand each culture is too great to do in a short amount of time. So if you want to crack Vietnam, you talk to Lon or Eddie, come to me for Thailand, or literally to Southeast Asia, because we've got the networks. We know how business is done. We know who to hire, and how to get business off the ground. And the amazing thing about COVID is a lot of these people are either they just exited their business, they just left, they're underemployed, they're open. This is a crisis that so many businesses are waiting to recruit the best people, to expand more cheaply because rent is cheaper and you could hire more aggressively, and your competition are dialing back. And despite whatever economic doom and gloom, the governments are printing money, putting it into supporting startups and small businesses, and they're going to have to spend. And a lot of that is going to go through adaptation for COVID and resilience and digital transformation. So that'd be my number one tip. And condos would be super cheap. And then yields are great in Vietnam, I heard. So it's time to buy.
Excellent. Thank you, Amrit. And Tanya, what would your single top tip be?
Single top tip is look at the local competition. Don't assume that you are the only company startup going into these new markets. It's most startups and scale-ups do have a fairly good understanding of what exists, obviously in the UK, in Europe, in the US, but they grossly underestimate what the local competition is. So one top tip, have a really, really good look at what already exists, and that enables you to really build out your USP.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you all so much. I think we're going to have to skip the Q&A, unfortunately, because we've already gone past 6 o'clock, and I don't want to miss out on the final section because this is a great opportunity for finding your first contact within ASEAN for the business challenge. Before I go, one thing I will say on the Q&A is thank you for those who have asked questions, and thank you particularly to the panel members and others who have responded. I see Eddie has been pretty active answering some of the questions, and Amrit as well. So we can follow up on some of these offline as well, either through us. You should have all our contact details. Contact us on LinkedIn, very happy to answer. I just want to pick up on one question. So I think it was the first question, which is what makes ASEAN more attractive than bigger markets, for example, the US/Europe? The one thing I want to say, that one remarkable stat, which really answers that question and demonstrates the potential here, is that by 2030, ASEAN as an economic bloc is predicted to be the 4th largest in the world, greater than the EU and potentially surpassing Japan as well. So that you should be thinking about US, Europe and ASEAN as well, given the size and the growth. So that is all I'll say in the Q&A. So I'm really sorry that we didn't have get a chance to schedule those other questions, but like I say, we can pick up some of those offline. And thank you to the panel members for all your insights. We really appreciate it. Such a wealth of knowledge there. That's been great. So thanks very much for your time, and thanks again to Eddie as well, who was hoping to bring in for the Q&A. So now let's move on to our final segment of today's session. And for this, I would like to welcome Jenny Lang, who is the Interim Head of Innovation at Sunderland Software City, to the virtual stage, who's going to tell you more about an opportunity to kickstart your expansion into this exciting market. So thank you. Jenny, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. So it's been really interesting to hear from all the speakers this morning, and it is clear there's some real opportunities for tech businesses across ASEAN. So I'm pleased to be telling you more about the launch of the UK-ASEAN Digital Business Challenge. So firstly, a very quick introduction to who we are. So Sunderland Software City exists to address the changing needs of the tech sector through a range of innovation, digital skills and business support programs. And Sunderland Software City is part of the UK Tech Cluster Group. Now, the UK Tech Cluster Group is there to understand the needs of tech ecosystems right the way across the UK. And part of that work is to bring suitable opportunities to that ecosystem of innovative and forward-thinking tech companies. So next slide, please. Thank you. So what is the UK-ASEAN Digital Business Challenge? Now, essentially, it is a simple process. The challenge will be to uncover 2 tough government or business challenges from across ASEAN and open these up to UK tech businesses with the capabilities to develop innovative solutions. So the benefits to UK tech SMEs is the chance to export solutions to ASEAN markets and a genuine opportunity to gain a commercial contract with a leading ASEAN organisation or business, as well as providing a global stage to shine a light on the innovative work that SME does. And for any forward-thinking ASEAN organisations or businesses who may be on the call today, this pilot will be an opportunity to solve some of your organisational challenge and understand where digital adoption may be able to provide solutions to those challenges. So in terms of the process of this challenge, so we've developed this to support open innovation, and it's been designed to speed up digital adoption within traditionally non-digital companies. So the process for the challenge will be as follows. So 2 ASEAN business challenges will be announced and then be promoted. UK SMEs will then be able to submit an application to their chosen business challenge. And we promise it is a written application, but it will be straightforward and it will be a relatively short application process. Then there will be pitch training. Now, we know that companies who apply to this challenge will likely have a wealth of experience in pitching their products or services, but this one-to-one training will be an opportunity to ensure that your pitch is the best it can be, and importantly, the most relevant and appropriate to ASEAN challenge owners. Shortlisted companies will then deliver their pitch, and that will be to senior leaders within the challenge owner. And then finally, companies will be selected from the pitch day and go on to agree a commercial contract with the ASEAN business or organisation. So next slide, please. So at Sun Software City, we have several years of experience in delivering challenges such as these, and that's with a range of organisations from local government right through to global brands. And as a result, we ensure that any business challenge that we do has to support these 6 criteria, some of which Tanya highlighted during the panel, and they are just so important. So we're there to ensure that there is a clearly defined problem. So we will be working with ASEAN, the chosen ASEAN organisations or businesses, to ensure the challenge is clear and it is suitable. There will be an agreed budget and clarity on any assumptions made. So for companies and those UK tech SMEs applying to take part, they have an understanding of the budget available and can therefore pitch their solution accordingly. We will work with both the challenge owner and solution provider to ensure timescales are agreed and expectations are managed. Again, I think it was Tanya who made this point. They can sometimes take longer than expected, but we've got that experience to manage that where we can and help people kind of recognise those expectations from the off. And that's right through from application deadlines through to procurement. We ensure there's significant buy-in, another thing that was discussed by the panel. So working with senior leaders, working with partners, working with Chris, working with Natalie, making sure that those within the organisations are really bought into this, and all relevant teams who will be involved with the challenge are looped in from the beginning. We'll work to ensure there's a roadmap, so a desire for partnerships and real long-term intentions that go way beyond just this initial challenge pilot. And lastly, we ensure that both parties will be made clear on the intellectual property position. So next slide, please. Thank you very much. So Sun Software City has successfully implemented and delivered challenges with a diverse mix of organisations, as I've already said, from local government to some of the big brands that you can see here on the slide. And I just wanted to give a couple of examples from these. So firstly, Nissan. So Nissan was seeking to better understand quality assurance issues within a new fleet of cars. And through a business challenge that Nissan worked on, a UK SME called Word Nerds was selected after pitching their solution, which utilized the application of artificial intelligence and corpus linguistics. And as a result of this challenge, Word Nerds actually spun out from a previous company and have gone from strength to strength. So they've worked with clients such as Tommy Tippy and Procter & Gamble. They recently closed a £650,000 round of investment. And as the CEO himself will say, they simply wouldn't exist if they hadn't got involved in this Nissan business challenge. And secondly, Northern Gas Network. So they were seeking ways to find innovative ways of monitoring off-site equipment and gas infrastructure. And as a result of this challenge, 2 UK SMEs who specialised in IoT solutions were selected to develop a proof of concept, and that came to a combined contract value of around 250,000. So the point I'm making here is there is clear opportunity and genuine business opportunities for both ASEAN organisations and businesses and UK tech SMEs to get involved in a business challenge such as this one. So last slide, please. Thank you very much. So with that in mind, for any UK-based tech SMEs who've been listening to the event this morning and are keen to know more, please do register your interest. So it will take less than 2 minutes to do that. The link should be appearing very soon within the chat function for you to do that. Once you have registered your interest and the business challenges go live and they are confirmed, Sunderland Software City will contact you with more information. So thank you very much for your time. We're really looking forward to progressing this pilot and working with the partners, and I'll hand back over to Chris.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jenny. Really great to hear about this opportunity. If anybody has any questions, please do use the Q&A. There's a question that's come up, which I will answer, and then Jenny, feel free to chip in if you've got anything else. Although I think this one's pretty straightforward. The question is this only open to UK companies based in Sunderland? The great answer is no. This is open to all UK-based companies. So Sunderland Software City have the experience of running this type of program in the UK before. The examples that Jenny gave are great examples that this is a proven, tried and tested approach. But it will be opened up across the whole of the UK, including Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, using the UK Tech Cluster Group, which Jenny referred to earlier as well, to make sure that these challenges are spread far and wide to find the best possible solutions. Let me see if there's, I don't think there's any other questions. Does anybody have any other questions that you would like to ask about the business challenge? I'll just give that for just wait, give it 30 seconds or so in case anybody comes up.
But yes, just to, as you said, Chris, it is absolutely UK wide. We're just Sunderland Software City is in the name. But yes, absolutely open to UK wide companies.
Cool. And I don't think we've had any more questions come up. Please do take a look at the link, register your interest. We are working to find these business challenges with the ASEAN corporates and governments at the moment as well, so we'll have more information on that soon. But given there's no questions, thank you very much, Jenny. Really appreciated that quick run through of what the Digital Business Challenge is. And then I think all that's left to say is thank you again to all of our speakers and panelists for sharing your valuable insights with us today. We really appreciate it. It's been so much really good content there. Thank you again to the UK-ASEAN Business Council for partnering with us on this event. And finally, thank you to the audience for joining us. I hope you've all found this to be a valuable session. Do get in touch. There's plenty of contact details here and in the chats, in the Q&A. It looks like there's some already connections that have been made, which is great to see. And we look forward to seeing you join us in Southeast Asia. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.